Alright, this is the video I've been trying to make forever, taking forever to make. I've tried making it a few times, but I always go over time, so I'm going to tighten it up, tighten up the story a little bit and what I'm trying to get through. Okay, and another reason it's taking a long time, because I haven't really been wanting to make it. It's kind of hard for me to do. I don't want to have to do this. I've kind of just been forced into this position because I don't want to keep waiting to try to get back on track with my life. And so, anyways, here it is. So, all right, 2017. Before 2017, I lived in Florida. It's a long ass story. I think I might make a longer video later to kind of like make maybe try to make a like a as short as I can life story video, maybe to kind of explain, how I ended up where I'm at in life. But in Florida, okay, so I was born in Pompano Beach, lived there till I was 6. Around the time I was born, my dad bought 42 acres between LaBelle and Clewiston, 2 hours away, and they built a farmhouse out there. They put up for sale both houses. Whichever house sold first, they would move into. So the house in Fort Lauderdale sold first, and my dad retired from carpentry contracting and bought a dump truck, and he had excavating equipment. I think he was leasing it or making payments on some of it. Some of it he might own. I can't remember. But he had like a backhoe, a front end loader, a Bobcat, F-350, the equipment trailer. So, anyways, he got um, like a mid-sized dump truck and regretted it a few months later. Decided to get a bigger dump truck. So he trades it in, gets a bigger dump truck, and everything goes wrong with it. Starts breaking down right away. He goes through like 7 fans in like less than a year. Within 3 months, he's gone through like multiple fans, the brakes, all kinds of stuff with the engine, and all kinds of stuff on the truck. So he begs them to work with him. I even remember my mom crying on the phone, begging them to work with them to do something for them, because there's no lemon law on commercial vehicles, and they wouldn't do it. So uh, my dad parked the truck at the place with the keys in it, said y'all can have it, and they came after them for years for the money and the creditors. They tried to get a lawyer at one point, and there was nothing they could do, but they they thought that it was pretty messed up what happened. They thought they got screwed over, but at the same time they're getting creditors coming after them for years, calling. Even at one time they tricked me, said, "Hey, it's an emergency. I need to talk to your dad." Some woman, and I thought it was a real emergency, so I gave him my dad's cell phone. They had like the old army telephones, like the first cell phones. My dad had one in his truck where it like hangs up, and my mom had a regular like a old flip phone, a Nokia, and he ends up he ended up cussing her out, which was very rare. Like I never heard my dad cuss someone out on the phone before. Anyway, so then he like leased an old broken down dump truck to like keep us fed, keep us clothed, all that. Barely survived out there. There was times when he wanted. I remember like it getting back to me at one point because overheard my mom and my sister talking about it. That he wanted to keep our Christmas money from my family from his mom and aunt because we needed it so bad. And my mom argued with him and said, "No, you're not getting their Christmas money." I don't blame him for doing that. I know he was in a rough spot. He ended up borrowing money from them, like $5,000, and paying it back, years later. But that's how bad it was. When we did had our hogs, we raised hogs for 4-H and FFA. They kept like the majority of that money, and they're, we were kind of mad about it, but they were like, "Well, we paid for the feed, we helped you buy them." I mean, we only paid like $70 for the hog, and probably like a couple $100 in feed. But anyways, long story. But anyways, my dad finally decided he wanted to go back to carpentry, and he let his license go. But when he got it back in the late 60s, early 70s, you just had to pay for it. And, you weren't going to get work and keep work. And by word of mouth, you would not get another job if you didn't know what you were doing. So there was no carpentry test. And, I mean, I don't know how it worked with inspections and stuff like that, but, I'm sure it was a little more relaxed back then. But over the years, it got stricter and stricter, and he learned. They tell you that the foreman comes out, "Hey, you need to put these clips here, do this there," and anyways. So he was like grandfathered in. So when he let it go, he had to retake the test. So he had to study for it. He ended up taking it 6 times. The 6th time he passed it, because on the 5th time, between the 5th time and the 6th time, he talked to someone and talked to this guy who was at the place taking a test as well. And he was asking him, "Are you erasing?" I didn't know. Me and my sister would have told him if we knew he was using Scantrons back then. "Hey, if you're using a Scantron, you have to erase thoroughly, or else it'll mark 2 answers." So on the last test, he didn't erase at all. He just made the best choice and went with it, and he passed. So he said, "I probably passed it the first time if I would have erased thoroughly. If someone would have told me not to erase, or if you do, make sure you do a damn good job." So he finally got his carpenter contractor's license back after 7 years. And then they sold the farm. And when I lived out there, we lived like 40 miles from school and civilization. So the only thing I had to do to keep myself busy was to hang out with my sister. And when she got older and started hanging out with her friends and got a boyfriend, I was on my own. So I had, some video games and stuff, but my dad, he was too old. He'd play catch with me a little bit, and his arm would start hurting like 10 minutes later. He got trampled by a cow too, so maybe it was his left shoulder, because he put on a glove, play catch with me, and he'd have to catch the ball, and he was like, "I can't do it anymore, sorry." So he'd play for 10 minutes, and he'd say, I'm sorry, I can't." And but my dad, he was like a drill sergeant in the army, so he never came across like endearing or anything. He was just like, "I can't do it, sorry, can't do it," like. And I don't know, almost making me feel bad. I'm like, but it would have been cool, like, if he would have, like, tried to find something else we could do. He never attempted to do that. But anyways, after a while, like, my sister and her boyfriend, my dad would ask them, "Why don't you take your brother with you? Get him away from here," because you could tell I was getting depressed and shit. And it just sucked. I mean, we had BB guns. Me and my sister wore the shit out of these BB guns. We had BB guns. Our first Christmas out there from when we moved. Lived in this old farmhouse. They had like they towed out this construction trailer, had some bunks in it, and then they built the farmhouse, and it had everything except flooring. So it had plywood floors, so you could see the sun shining through the cracks in the plywood floors um, in the morning. See the sun shining on the ground underneath the house. It had like white lattice skirting, but the house was built on blocks. And we had like we had a septic tank next to it, and it's like they just put it there and covered it with dirt. So it was like when you come, there was like our house was built on a hill, and then there was a hill next to the house that covered the septic tank. That was kind of like sticking out from the house. And anyways, this is gonna end up being my longer video because I've already gone way too damn far. I'll have to make a shorter one after this. This will be my long one. So, anyways, at one point, you know, after I made a lot of money on one of my hogs, and raised enough, or I made enough money, I bought my friend's dirt bike. So I had a dirt bike like less than a year before I moved. So that was fun. At least I had some fun with that. At one point, the sprockets broke with the chain, and my dad like he could do very minimal mechanical work, and he was not good with small engines and like four-wheel stuff like that. We had two four-wheelers and a three-wheeler. He ended up giving them away to my mom's cousin's kids because he couldn't get them to run. But he was like, oh, they won't start. I don't know what to do. Y'all can have them if you want them. They took them, did an oil change, and they started right up. I'm like, dude, I would have loved to ride the four-wheelers and three-wheel. I would have loved to have those four-wheelers. So it was just shit like that, man. It's just like disappointment after disappointment. But now I'm like, man, I wish I could be back there. It'd be awesome. But you know, we ended up. It wasn't horrible the whole time, but there was things like that, and I played little league every year, so they took me to little, or they picked me up from little league at least. But generally, if I rode the bus, it was like an hour and 20-minute bus ride each way. But okay, so we'd had a pond dug, and then we went dove hunting, and dove and duck hunting, and I went for like a couple seasons, never shot anything. So that's because I couldn't see. So at one point, I didn't know this till years later, but my mom told me that the nurse at school called and said, if you don't get that boy glasses, I will. And she thought because for a few years I'd told my mom, I was like, I think I need to go to the eye doctor. I can't see the board. I have to move up to the first row to see what's on the board, copy it down, and then go sit back by my friends or wherever I want to sit. I have to do it every time, and it was getting increasingly bad because it wasn't that bad for like first or kindergarten, whatever, through fourth grade, and then like fourth, fifth, sixth grade, it got really bad each year. So she went and took me to the eye doctor, and the eye doctor was like, yeah, his eyes are really bad. I couldn't see far away. And she was like, oh, well, you know, his sister, my older sister, She wanted glasses. I took her to the eye doctor, and she didn't even need them. I wasted the money for to get glasses. She didn't even need them. I ended up just giving her some glasses, but she just wanted to wear them as like a fashion thing, I guess. I don't know. And I'm like, why the hell would I want to do that? That's your daughter, a girl, whatever, dude. Like, how the hell? Why would I be like, I want glasses, mom? I want to be a nerd. I want like it doesn't even make sense. And so the year before we moved, I shot my first doves, because I could actually see. And I have a few other stories, stuff like my parents. They're not like the worst parents ever, but it's like, and they've helped me tremendously. We've the last years of my dad's life, I loved him so much. We got along so good, but there was just some things that happened back then that weren't that great. Like when I broke my finger, I tripped and fell, and I broke this finger, and it was like pointed this way, and if we dug this ditch, we're gonna install a drinking thing for our hogs so they could just bite on it and get water. So we went to empty their water bowls, and when we brought them to the kennels or whatever, when we take them for their showing and their sale, they had those in their kennels. So I tripped. My dad was like, "Oh, it's jammed. It's jammed. It's what they call it. That's dislocated. It's dislocated. It's jammed." I just He's like, "Just gotta unjam it." So he grabbed my arm, took my arm, held it out, and yanked on my finger, trying to snap it back in place. But it wasn't jammed. It was broken. It was fucking broken in half. So I screamed, and he pulled it, and he's like, "Oh, it's a little straighter." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, it's a little straighter," because he straightened it. He didn't set it though. So after a few days, it's still horrible. It still hurts like hell. I'm like, "Can we go to the doctor?" Well, let's see. Let's see if the swelling goes down. If the swelling goes down, maybe you won't got to go. A few more days later, well, it still hurts really bad. Swelling, you know, it's pretty much the same. It's a tiny bit better. Well, let's wait a little bit. Let's wait another week. Wait another week. Still hurts like hell, but it's a little better. Well, let's see. Maybe it'll look a little better. So like 4 weeks later, 4 or 5 weeks into it, I'm like, my finger is still crooked as hell. And in my mind, I'm like 10 or 11 years old. I'm like, this isn't, this doesn't seem right to me. Can we have a doctor look at it? I'm as a kid like shocked that my parents won't take me to the doctor. I'm like, can we go to the doctor? It's still crooked. And my mom was like, yeah, it still looks weird. I'll take you to the doctor. So she took me to the doctor. They do an X-ray and it was broken. They're like, yeah, your finger's broken. And the doctor looks at my mom like like she's half crazy. Like, why didn't you come right away? And she's like, well, we weren't sure if it was broken or not, and we didn't want to. We don't have. I don't know if she said. I think she might have said something like, we don't have a lot of money. We didn't want to spend the money if it wasn't broken. And he just was like, okay, like, it's broken. Yeah, it's broken. Next time come right away. So it was already grown back together. There's nothing they could do about it. They gave me this little rubber band, stretchy thing, stretch it out. And then same thing happened. I broke my hand, got boxer's fracture. I was mad. We playing basketball or something. I wanted to punch this kid, but I punched the door because I was pissed, which is stupid. Don't ever do that. But I was like ninth grade. Broke my hand. Showed my parents. They're like, uh, Well, it looks swollen. I was like, I think it's broken. Well, it just looks swollen. Let's see if the swelling goes down. 2 weeks later, hey, it's still round. There's a big round bump there. Well, the swelling went down a little bit. Let's wait a little bit, see if the swelling goes down. 2 weeks later, it's still. I said my hand's broken. Can we go to the doctor? Yeah, let's go to the doctor. Yeah, it's still looking weird. It's probably broken. Go to the doctor. He's like, well, yeah, it was broken. It's the bone has grown back together now. The only thing we can do, I'm not going to re-break it, but we'll put it in a cast, protect it, isolate these two fingers, and see if it'll that way it'll that help that bone grow. These fingers are isolated. Keep that bone still. It still cracks sometimes, but so I got like a year later, not 2 years later, a year later, year and a half later, almost 2 years later, got in a fight with my friend and was hitting him. I can't remember when I broke it, but I think I was hitting him. It was over a girl, and I was hitting him, punching him in his face, and he put his head down. And I start beating him in the back of his head, and I think I broke my hand in the back of his head. And I was never taught how to really throw a punch. You got hit with your big knuckles, the two big knuckles. No one ever taught me that. So I was throwing punches and hitting with this end. Boom. Like right here, I thought was like this area, but I was hitting over here. And broke my hand again. So I went to my mom, and this time I was like, my hand's broken. You're taking me to the doctor. Like, yeah, I'm not taking no for an answer. You're taking me to the doctor. We're going right away this time. She's like, yeah, we'll go to the doctor. Went to the doctor. They said it that time, put a cast on it right away, but always looks messed up because it was already broken and grew back together wrong the first time. So, anyways, yeah, that's just a little bit about my childhood. But like when I lived in Florida, or when I lived in the boondocks at the farm, there was a point when my dad would start asking my sister, "Hey, why don't you bring your brother with you? Get him out of the house, help him get out, take him to the movies, do something with him." So they started taking me out with them to hang out and to do stuff together. And then one time I caught them smoking weed, or they pretty much did it right in front of me. And I was like, "Oh, I'm telling mom. I'm going to tell mom." Went, ran, grabbed the phone. My sister ran, got the phone, and said, "Oh, no, you're not." And grabbed the phone. She's like, "Listen, if you want to hang out, and be cool, if you're gonna be a snitch and tell on us, you're never hanging out with me again. If you want to be cool and hang out, then you're not gonna say anything, and I'll bring you to hang out with us more." So I was like, "Okay, cool." So I didn't care what they did. I never snitched on them. I'm like, "Hey, whatever." And then eventually, once I was about a year and a half later, I was a few months from 13 years old. I asked if I could try drinking for the first time, and they brought me to spend the night at her boyfriend's house. And he lived like an hour away, probably from our house. And I asked if I could try drinking for the first time. So they made me Maker's Mark mixed drinks, bourbon and Coke. Maker's Mark with the candle wax top on it. And the same night I asked them if I could try smoking weed because they were smoking weed. So I smoked weed with them. So I did ask if I could do it, but they gave it to me. They provided it. They allowed it. So I got introduced to drugs very young, drinking drugs very young. And the next day we went to the movies, and her boyfriend was taking Percocets, and they gave one. He gave one to his friend, and uh, he took one, and I was like, what are those?" He's like, "Percocets." Like, "You want one?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll take one." So I took Percocet. Did in the same weekend, same 2 days, same 24 hours. I tried drinking, smoking weed, popping a pill for the first time. So, anyways, like I said, my dad gets his contractor's license back. He travels for work for a while, and then he decides to sell the farm, move us towards where the work is, Lee County, Fort Myers, all that. So he moves us to Fort Myers. We lived there for a year. We get a really nice place. Got like a jacuzzi in my parents' bedroom. It's got a swimming pool. It was $1,400 a month. He told him this was in 2002, right after 9/11. Yeah, right after 9/11, 2002. So the summer of 2002. So like a while after. He asked him, if we did the yard work and stuff, will you knock some off? And he said, yeah. He knocked off $100 if we did the yard work ourselves and cleaned the pool and stuff like that. So $1,300. It's a lot of money but it was like we were kind of close to the beach. We're close to a lot of my dad's work and stuff. And he started framing houses all over Lee County. He probably framed the majority of the houses that were framed in Lee County. At least the small ones, under like $400,000, maybe between 275 to $350,000 homes. He probably framed the majority of them. Worked there till 2007. But anyways, we lived there for a year. Moved to Lehigh Acres. Bought a house, 2-bedroom, tiny house, and lived there for about 2 years. Then they sold that, bought a house towards Fort Myers, but kind of between Lehigh and Fort Myers. And there was this main road, pretty busy, like little highway. Bought a house there. We lived there for 4 months, or no, not 4 months. We lived there for a few years. After 4 months living there, this guy came and offered my dad $500,000 for the house. It was a half-acre lot. It was like 3-bedroom, nice house. Had a jacuzzi. Had a separate garage. My parents started doing well. Well, one part of the story I missed. When we were living in Lehigh, we first moved there. Got that little house. My sister moved out. She's living with her boyfriend, pretty much, living with us a few nights a week. She'd like sleep on the couch, going to college, being a pharmacist. So, my what was I saying? Damn, I'm blanking out. Parents bought 2 lots. They bought one lot. They went to an auction where they're selling lots, quarter-acre lots, before the construction boom happened. But construction was picking up. My dad was finding work. He was becoming successful. So they buy a lot for like $1,000 or something, $1,200. And they said, yeah, there was lots there for like as little as $700. So I had worked with my dad for the summer before ninth grade. Between 8th and ninth grade, I worked with my dad, and I saved up like $1,200, something like that, somewhere around $1,000, 1,200, I think, maybe. Yeah, I think it was 1,200. I said, buy me a lot. Take my money, buy me a lot. And if you can get one cheap, buy me a cheap one. As long as it's half decent, not horrible location, buy me one. And if they don't have them cheap enough, just buy me one up to the however much money I have. And if it goes over like $300 or $400 for like 1500, 1600, buy it for me, and I will work and pay you the rest as soon as possible. Or I'll pay it to you next summer. I'll give you that money back. And they said, okay. So they went, they buy themselves a lot. Come back. Well, we got us one. Got us one for 1,200 or 1,100. They got one for 1,100. We didn't get you one, but we'll get you one on the next one. I was like, oh my God. Why don't you just get me one? Why didn't you get one this time? Like I asked you to. Next time they went, the cheapest lot they had was $3,500. So I was screwed. Within a couple of years, they were selling these lots for $50,000. I might have kept it and seen if maybe my dad would maybe eventually me and him could build a house on it, because that's what he did with one of his lots. He built a house on it, made like $150,000. Or I might have waited till it was at max price, probably around 50K. I probably would have sold it, made like almost $50,000 off of it. But that never happened. So I ended up not really liking school too much. I did good. I made good grades till like 5th or 6th grade, like straight A's. And then I got my first B in like 6th grade, and then started getting C's and A's, B's, C's in 7th grade. And then, 8th grade, I did pretty good, but ninth grade, I started asking questions, and the teachers would, not want to spend too much time if I didn't get something. So I started quit asking. I didn't really like school too much. Started hanging out with kids who like to party and stuff, dicking around, something I shouldn't have done, but I never thought I was going to end up in college. And my dad was real hesitant to have me work with him because he didn't want me to get used to working like that. He wanted me to do something with my life. But I was like, you already helped my sister with college so much. I was like, there's no way y'all are going to help me. And I just didn't have no idea what I would do, what I would be. I was already messing up in school. And then I started screwing around. I got my first car. They helped me get a little cheap car. Or they bought me a cheap car. Not a horrible car, but it was like, a few $1,000s. Then I started dicking around, started becoming half a hoodlum, started partying and stuff, got arrested for the first time with a few Vicodin and baggies and a metal scale, because I was selling nick bags of weed, and ended up doing a diversion program, arbitration, got off pretty easily. I'd say they made it sound like they said, if you do this diversion program, your record will be cleared. And later on, when I finished, they didn't clear my record, and I realized that. They said, oh no, it's not that we clear your record, you can have your record cleared. I was like, well, no one told me that. So all these, after the housing market crashed, I'm applying for jobs everywhere, trying to get a job, applying for an apartment. Uh, I'm not getting any callbacks, not getting hired anywhere. I didn't even realize it for the first time until I was 20. I was 21, 22. I filled out an application and I got arrested when I was 16. Multiple felonies, but I was underage, thank God. But that my felonies came up, and they said, no, we can't rent to you with these felonies, even though they weren't really wasn't that horrible, but people used to be stricter back then. So I was like, holy hell, that's still on my record. I thought that was gonna fall off my record when they did this diversion program, because I was a juvenile and I did diversion programs my first time in trouble. I ended up getting arrested 2 other times besides that. I got arrested. Possession of alcohol under the age of 21. Got caught. I was in my girlfriend's friend got pulled over. That's a long story. Bitch wouldn't listen to me. I kept telling her, don't get behind the cop. She got behind the cop. I said, don't pass. Or I said, don't get from behind the cop. She got from behind the cop. I said, don't pull up next to the cop. She pulled up next to the cop. I said, don't pass the cop. She passed the cop. Cop pulled her over. I tried kicking a liquor bottle under the seat, and I couldn't get it underneath. There wasn't room. And he comes and he walks up. He shines the light at me. He shines it between my legs, and you can see it. Tried to put my feet on top of it to cover up my feet. He's like, "Oh, look at what you got there." So he wouldn't give me a break or nothing. He's like, "I gotta take you to jail." I'm like, "You gotta take me to jail for this? You can't give me a ticket. You can't work with me at all." He's like, "Nope, gotta take you. It's my job. Gotta take you to jail." I found out later he didn't have to take me. He could have gave me a notice to appear, or wrote a ticket or something. He could have gave me a notice to appear and gave me a fine, and he didn't do that. So another time I went to jail. The last time I went to jail. So that was as an adult. The bad stuff was I was 16. This time, possession of alcohol under the age of 21. It's like lightest, just the lightest thing you can go to jail for. It's the smallest charge, smallest misdemeanor you can be arrested for. And so is this next one. The next one was resisting arrest without violence. So a cop told me to stop, and I pretended like I didn't hear him, and I walked into a house. So when I came out, he arrested me, gave me obstruction slash resisting arrest without violence. It's another, like, those two are like the smallest charges you could get as an adult for a misdemeanor. So that's all. That's the last time I got arrested. I had encounters with cops after that. I almost went to jail a couple times. I got really lucky, very extraordinarily lucky a couple times because the cops were cool. So the housing market crashed sometime around all this. Before the bad charges, and then after the bad charges, and then before the other times I went to jail for the misdemeanors. Housing market crashes. Recession kicks, and the recession hits. Gas prices go wild. Unemployment, layoffs everywhere. Construction in Florida is dead. Especially where I lived. It was the highest construction, and it was the highest work stoppage, was Lee County, Florida. And Lee and Collier County, I think. So, I'm trying to think. So, around this time, I had thought, I want to become a general contractor. I can take the test. my dad was telling me, hey, you gotta get your credit good. You're gonna have to get this stuff, your record, keep it clean, or get this stuff expunged. These, or actually, at the time I hadn't been arrested for the other two, and I thought my other charges were automatically cleared. But he's like, hey, you gotta keep your record clean. They're gonna do a background check. I was like, well, I'll get the license and we'll find a way to use it through your company. And I'll help you make more money. Somehow we'll be able to use it, get bigger. We can get bigger jumps. We can do something with it. We'll figure it out. So they bought me all the construction books and then the guide on how to tab it. And then you get to go to the courses for a year. They have them in different cities. They had them in our city for a weekend, and I went and could barely understand anything. But then I was like, okay, I'll find someone to help me figure this out. But I tabbed all the books. There was like a tab guide. I tabbed them all. I said, I'll read, I'll study, I'll figure it out. So I was working for my dad, and then all of a sudden, they're not, the houses I had lined up, they said they're not pouring the pads, because my dad go around and check the construction, the permit boxes, see what kind of house it was. Lee Harbor Homes. He knows it's Lee Harbor Homes. He'll see, oh, are they gonna pour the pad? If they pour the pad, they put the block up. He'd be out there watching for it, and then as soon as they drop the lumber off, we'd go there and frame it. When we got to the point where he was subcontracting, and then he kept his original crew that he started out with over the years, and then he would have the trusses set, the roof sheathed, and then we'd go frame the house in shade. And if it rained, a lot of times it'd be dried in too. So if it rained, we could still work with the rain and everything, and we could be out of the sun. So a lot of times it was good. Sometimes we had to bite the bullet and just go frame the house with the trusses just set. That's it. Like no sheathing, no nothing. One time we actually put strings across and framed the house and put braces up because we were just trying to stay busy, and they hadn't set trusses yet. So did that one time. So anyways, we all ran out of work and there was nothing for any of us. My dad ended up going to Texas. Everyone got laid off. Everyone's on unemployment. I ended up eventually. There's a lot more to the story, but I would take so much more time to talk about it all. I got a job at Ross doing loss prevention, rinky-dink job, barely making like $120 a week mostly. Did that for like a year. I went to school to become a barber. It's a long story with that. I made it halfway through, left there, got in trouble over something really stupid. It's another long story. This girl, I left the school. I showed my ass a little bit, but I left the school, and then this girl tried sticking up for me, and she went after the teacher. I did not ask her to do that. Did not want her to do that. She got expelled. They ended up telling me not to come back, and then years later, they sent me a letter saying they wanted me to come back. So I went and finished, so I didn't want to have to pay back my Pell Grant. And I completed it, but I never got my license. My sister's boyfriend, who she ended up marrying, became a barber, or he became a barber. I was going to work in his shop. She ends up leaving him. She actually left him while I was living there. That was another weird situation. We were actually going to a different school. Me and her, she drops out of college, she had started going to this pain doctor. I never became addicted to drugs till way later, or a few years later. She started going to pain doctor or a regular doctor, getting like Lortabs, and she's like getting hooked on pain pills that she doesn't really need. And she'd give them some to me and her boyfriend, and he was really conservative with what he took, but he would drink. He drank often, and he'd be like become a little bit of an asshole a little too often. She didn't like that, but she's becoming a pillhead, so couldn't really say much. So, anyways, uh, we went. She dropped out of college, or flunked out by like 1 point. It's a long story. Found out she had ADHD. Could have went back and fought it. Got extra time on the test. Said the hell with it. Gave up on 7 years of college. And went. And she was working as a pharmacy tech. She said, I'm going to go to cosmetology school with you. We can go together. And I'll work in a salon and you can work with Ray, is my husband. And he was just like, just go there and get that license so you're legal to do it. I'll teach you the rest. He said, you're not going to learn shit in school. Just like with me, I never learned shit. All I got was a piece of paper that said I could legally cut hair in the state of Florida. And you're going to learn the rest working in a shop. So we went to this like rinky-dink freaking cosmetology school out in the middle of nowhere in not Palm Beach, Belle Glade. Went to Belle Glade. So, like 5 months in, she leaves, hooks up with this guy, never comes home. Calls him, says, I'm not coming back. I don't want to be married no more. I'm living there with them. So I had to move out. I'm like feeling horrible for him because we're pretty close. I can't believe she's doing this. My dad's like devastated. My mom's devastated too. Anyways, that became a whole thing. So I moved back in with my parents. And then I started going to a place in Fort Myers. Thought I was going to be able to transfer my hours, and they wouldn't let me. So they said, well, we'll look into it. Let's just get you started. So I get in there, I get started. Like a month or two, and I'm like, hey, are we going to transfer those hours? And they're like, what? Who told you that? I'm like, oh my God, not this shit, dude. And then they're like, yeah, it's got to be like an accredited place that we're like, that has like a, similar structure, or else it won't really work. So I was like, so you're not going to transfer my, I had like 300 hours. I had like a quarter of the year. They're like, no, we're probably not. It's not going to work out. Basically said it probably won't work out. I was like, can you just give me like a real answer? Like, no, it's not. That's not going to happen. And I think that even then they were like, it's not going to, probably wouldn't happen. I'm like, okay, I'll just take that as a no. So I had to start over from scratch. Did that 6 months. And then I leave, and then oh shit, my battery's on. So then I go to, I ended up losing my job at Ross, but I didn't care about the job. They barely paid anything. It was a ridiculous job. I was like 19. My dad went to Texas to get work. And recession's like full swing now. It's like 2009, early 2009. And I ended up, I'm going to try to make the story quick from here on out because it's already like 50 minutes. So my dad says, come out here, join me, bring Armando with you. It was his uh, longest working worker he had with him who spoke Spanish and English. And my mom's cousin ended up going out there to work with him. They were like pretty much homeless, had nothing. My dad took them in, let them sleep in his bedroom. He got an apartment out there. My mom ended up going out there and meeting him because he's like, I want you to come stay out here with me. And then, me and my older sister ended up living with us. She got schizophrenia and her husband left her. She had 2 kids. Long story. She ended up not being able to take care of her kids, and her husband left, and she had serious mental problems, serious mental issues. She's full-blown schizophrenic and manic depressive. So I go meet him in Texas. He said, okay, look, so he helped my mom's cousin, my mom's cousin, so it's like my second cousin, get work. It was his kids that they gave the 4-wheelers and 3-wheelers to. They lived out there in the boondocks, same area we lived. But that's why we moved out there and bought property near there, because he lived there. Both of her cousins, they were brothers. They're around my mom's age, maybe a year or 2 older. So, yeah, my dad was like, I was the youngest, so my dad was 43 when I was born. My mom was 35. So just thought that would help make sense for some of the stuff I said earlier. So they grew up in a different era. That's, I always said like it was kind of weird, some of the stuff that happened with me, but I kind of feel like I guess they did the best they could for what they knew how, but some of the stuff was weird, but they didn't do a good job preparing us for the future. They brought us up. They had both my sisters in Christian school, and me too, till halfway through kindergarten, and they pulled my sister out in 6th grade. My older sister, she graduated from a Christian school, went to college for a couple of years and left, and moved to New York. That's where my mom's from. My dad's from Kentucky, and his family moved to Fort Lauderdale. So that's one of my biggest things when I look back at how things could have been better, what they should have done, what I would do for my family. I would never move somewhere without knowing there's a good church nearby. Pick the church, and then, or if you're going to pick a place to move, you better make sure there's a good church to go to and a good school. We only prayed like at dinner and ate dinner together like a handful of times that I can remember. And, we never prayed, never read the Bible to us, never taught us anything about Jesus or God or anything. They could barely answer questions about that stuff. And then there was a church out there in the middle of nowhere at our farm that they ended up having, the pastor moved on, and the only pastor they could get was a woman pastor. So they had a woman pastor. We went there once or twice. My parents were like, we're not doing this. They did not like the idea of a female pastor. Anyways, letting my sister spend weekends with her boyfriend at 16. Like, that's not something they should have ever done. They consider themselves Christian. Like, what kind of Christian parents would be allowing that? My sister is on birth control, and they knew about it. And I can't remember. Well, I said something to my mom not long ago about that. And she was like, well, we don't want her to get pregnant, and she's going to do it anyways, whether we do it or not. And she was like, well, she went and got on it herself. And then they called us, and I was like, oh, okay, that's a little different. I was like, I would have cracked down right there, like, why are you on birth control? You're not, you're not seeing your boyfriend anymore. Like, I would have put a stop to that shit. Knowing what I know now, would never allow that with my kids. Anyways, so yeah, this second cousin of my mom's, or my second cousin of my mom's, he helps them get on their feet, and the wife. At one point, my dad's pain pills went missing because he was getting hydrocodone because he had degenerative disc disease and he had a bad shoulder. He was in pain. He was probably like 60, around 60 years old. No, I think 60, 2009. He died in 2013, so it was like 14. He was around like 63 years old. Around 63, he's getting pain pills. They're mailing them to him through the VA. They were supposed to show up on a day, and they never showed up, or they went missing from the mailbox. They assumed it was her. She would be crying, saying she was in pain. She had some kind of pain with her body. And her husband would look at her in the bed crying. I think she was probably addicted to pills before that, because her kids were like addicted to drugs and hoodlums and stuff like that. But either maybe she was in legit pain, or she was an addict. But so my dad had to get by. I think he might have had like a week's worth saved up, and he got by taking as little as he could and a boatload of ibuprofen, because they refused to give him any more pills. They were really strict about that. And they're like, no, we're not sending it anymore, and unless you can. And the only thing that would have done is that, like, he would have had to make like a police report. If they had to catch the person, I don't know if he went that far with it, but so they made this new thing, like, where he would go pick up the medicine from the post office or something, so that wouldn't happen again. But they're pretty sure she did it. Well, anyway, so he helped them get back on their feet, get some work. This guy, there's a long story with him. He ended up being kind of a crook, and screwed over some people in different states. My mom's cousin. I guess he helped my dad do a little bit of work by hand, but then after that, he gets back on his feet, starts wheeling and dealing. He's talking to this guy that they did a little work for, and he says he's got a brother, or he himself or something has these hotels in Michigan that need to be renovated. So he said, let's go to Michigan. We got work in Michigan. So around that time that I lost my job at Ross, I've only been fired like twice from Ross. Ross and one other place. I can't even think about it right now. I had a windows and doors job I did in Florida. I got fired from. He wanted someone with more experience, and he was looking for any little reason to fire me. And he was testing me out. He thought I would be better. I was scared of heights, and for some reason, most of the houses we worked on were one story. So I never thought I was gonna have to go like more than one story, for the most part. And every house we did was like 2 or 3 stories tall. And then he was like, I install windows on like hotels and stuff, like 15 stories high. And I was like, oh shit. And I don't think he didn't want to keep me, so he found the dumbest reasons to fire me over. He's like, oh, this, and that, you know. I hit this dog and knocked its guts out like 50 feet down the road, and was a few minutes late because I had to take bolts off my bumper and rip it the rest of the way off. Put my bumper in the back seat to make it to his house and have my old lady drop me off and drive home. On the way there, the battery terminal came loose and came up off the battery, and the car died while I was driving. So I was like, I thought my car just died. Like, I thought my car died, like, was dead, no good no more. I was like, my car just quit driving. You know, the timing belt probably went off of it, and when that happens, your car seizes up. It's no good anymore. So I ran to his house, like 2 blocks. It was a few minutes late. I asked him if he could help me, maybe with the work truck. I was like, do you think we could, like, tow the car back? He was like, what am I, my fucking tow company? And he was like he was a French Canadian guy who moved to the United States, moved to Florida. I'm not even sure if he had citizenship, but he, like, had a business and everything. What am I, fucking tow company? I was like, no, okay. And then I'm calling her, and I'm like, can you get someone to come help you and pick you up? And I was like, well, on the way back, can we at least stop by there and I'll push the car off the side of the road? And they're like, yeah. And then I was like, well, I asked the guy who was training me, could we give her a ride home if it's on the way to the job? And I said, which way are we going? He told me which way. I was like, oh, that's going by my house. Can we just drop her off? He was like, I gotta ask the boss. I'm like, he's already pissed at me. You're gonna make me ask the boss. He's like, I'm not gonna have an unauthorized passenger. I'm not getting in trouble for that. And I'm like, really? Like, to drop her off 3 miles away? So here I am. I gotta walk back to him and fuck with him again. Can I give my ex a ride home? I knew he'd decide to fire me right then and there. He was like, what ended up being my ex later. Can I give my old lady a ride home? He was like, yeah, you can give her a ride home. So he started to be, like, nice to me. Like, that's when he was like, all right, this guy's gone. I'm not. So he started being nice because he knew, he was like, I'm fucking getting rid of this guy. And that was the only time I was late. Like, I showed up right on time a couple times, but I didn't, I was carrying this big ass window with the suction cups and stuff, and I was struggling, and he could see I was struggling, and I think he thought I would do a little better, and he didn't like the way I was performing, and I told him I did carpentry before, and he thought because I knew carpentry I'd be a good window and door installer, and I thought so too, but he wanted it was during the recession, and you could just hire and fire. It was a right to work state or whatever. Like, you could just go through workers till you found who you wanted, like that. There's so many people who need jobs. So I didn't meet his expectations, so he wanted me gone. So we went back to the car, and I figured out you had to, like, push this little button on the side to move the shifter. And I put it in neutral, and I went to push it off to the side of the car, or side of the road. And I said, let me open the hood real quick, because I should have done this right away. Let me at least look under the hood. I was in such a hurry, though. I just jumped out of the car. I was like, I gotta go. Can you get someone to come pick you up? She's like, yes, go. So I came back, met her, and I'm like, let me just look under the hood. I should have just done this in the first place. I look under the hood, and I see that the battery terminal. The first place I went to look was, like, general look at it, and I look at the battery, and I see the terminal barely, or the cable barely on the terminal. So I, like, knock that back down, and it starts right up. I'm like, oh my god, I just went through all this for nothing. For fucking nothing. I'm losing my job probably. dealing with all this shit. I'm panicking. I'm asking him if I could tow the truck. He's like, what am I, a fucking tow company and all this shit? And there's nothing wrong with the car. Even though the front was all busted up for me hitting that dog, but it still runs fine. I thought it was fucked or something, but engine still runs. Did all that for nothing. Anyways, so yeah, so this thing with the, that's the only 2 times I've been fired. Any other time I left the job. So we, I pick up Armando and my sister drives us to Texas. I meet up with them, and me and my Armando drive the work truck because my dad had a box truck, and him and my mom drive my dad's truck. And I think my mom and my sister drove the box truck there to them at some point. They're like, meet me in Texas. We're going to pack up the little stuff I have in this apartment because it came furnished. And we're going to go to Michigan. And they're like, Norman talked to these people. That was his name, my mom's cousin. And we got a bunch of work in Michigan. So we drive to Michigan. We get there. And the first day we get there, my mom goes to their room to talk because they're like right down the hallway. We all each get our own room. The rooms are free as long as we're working for the guy working on the hotels. They go in there, they're talking about it, and my parents start talking like, oh, what's the deal? What are we doing? How are we talking about the money and stuff and the work? And he's like, oh no, we're not partners. This isn't going to be like in Texas, where my dad took them in and did everything for them, let him drive his truck, let them have his room. He slept on the couch, got them work, didn't charge them rent or have them pitch in on bills or anything. And they're like, no, I'm running the show. You're working for me. So my parents are pissed. They're like wanting to leave. And I'm like, well, what is he going to pay you? I'm like, I was like, yeah, this is nasty. That's shitty. But what is he going to pay you? We drove 1,200 miles or something, 1,500 miles, whatever. I don't even know the distance. It's like we drove all the way here, spent like $1,000 in gas. What's he going to give you? And then I think he said he would give him like $1,200 a week. So I was like, that's not nothing. And then they said, I think I was going to get like, they're giving me somewhere between 12 and 14 an hour, which I wasn't complaining. The last couple places I worked, I was making like $8 or $9 an hour. And we started doing, we were ripping out these windows and they're putting in smaller windows and AC units. So we were framing in where they had these big windows, and it was a little 2-story hotel. We were staying in a different hotel that he owned, a bigger hotel. This is in southwest Michigan. And we framing out the front of these hotels. And then on the inside, anything that needed work, any kind of drywall work or anything, we're fixing the drywall, doing the trim, fixing doors, whatever needed help, we work on it. We were painting everything. So we were there for just over 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. And then him and my dad have a falling out. Another thing, we were busting up concrete too on the walkway, and they're going to re-pour that. So I'm busting that up. And there was like this metal railing, and he came over and was like, that thing doesn't look good, like it could come right off. And my dad was like, it's fine, just leave it there. And he was making it sound like, well, someone needs to do something, or we need to work on that. My dad was like, it's fine. So, like an idiot, I walk over and I yank on it and it comes right up. And I was like, oh crap. And my dad was like, good job proving his point. I was like, oh shit. So, anyways, it would have been fine if they would just re-poured the concrete. It would have anchored right into the concrete. It would have been fine. So they had a falling out. My dad was like, I'm leaving. Screw this place. He's like, this guy's treating me like scum. I did all this for him. Uh, I'm not even sure he had paid him anything, barely like maybe 2 weeks worth of money. And we needed materials. And I don't know even why I told my dad this, but I told him, I said, why don't you just pay for it and keep the receipt and have him pay you back? Because I figured the guy who owned the seemed like he wanted work done. He seemed like he was willing to, you know, be above board, do everything right. Norman was a sleazy scumbag, though. So I said, just pay for it. I'm sure he'll give you the money back. Paid like $800 for materials. So we ended up going back to the hotel after they fought, and he's like, we're leaving. We're not putting up with this shit. We get back to the hotel, and like the manager is there waiting on. He's like, so he went and told them immediately that we were leaving. Like he couldn't even been like waited to see what happened, and they went. He did this shit. He's a scumbag. He was just trying to like get at my dad however he could. Didn't like the way he talked to him or something. I don't know. Told him right away that we were leaving, and they came up to us and said, "We've been notified if you're no longer working for the hotel anymore, you'll have to start paying for your rooms." So they're like, "All right, pay for a night for all of us, or my parents' room, my room, Armando's room." And we get our stuff together and we get ready to leave. And he said, I want to go and get my $800. So he goes and talks to him. He's like, I want my $800. He's like, what $800? He's like, $800 for the materials. I don't know what I'm assuming he gave him the receipt. I'm sure he did. I'm sure he gave him the $800. I hope he did, or else he probably didn't know about it. But I think I'm pretty sure he had the conversation. He said, I went and got materials. I got the receipt. He said, and he told me, he said, hold on the receipt and give it to me. I'll give you the money for it. And he didn't get around to it. So he went and he said, I think he had the receipt with him, and he was like, I want my $800 for this material. And he was like, what $800? He's like, for the damn materials. And he's like, I ain't paying you $800 for. And my dad reached in and was gonna hit him, and my mom grabbed him by his shoulders, like, no, Richard, no. And he was gonna beat his ass. And I was up there. I was up on the balcony, and I was like talking to these guys, and because he told me, he caught me walking in my room and was like, if you want to stay working for us, you can. And his wife came and gave me a hug, and this was separate from talking to him. She was like, I'm so sorry about this happening. It's like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, I know it sucks. Yeah, I was like, well, now I kind of wish I would have went and talked to him, and maybe I could have worked something out. But probably not. Probably better we left, or we would have been screwed worse later. So I was talking to my parents, and they're like, if you and Armando want to stay, you can stay, but we're leaving. I was like, well, there's no work where we're going back. There's no work. And Armando was like, no, I'm with you. Wherever you go, I go. If you're not staying, I'm leaving. screw this guy. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I wasn't making my mind up till the last minute. And finally, I was like, while I was there, I was talking to the other guys and I was asking their opinion. And they're like, and I told them, I was like, he's kind of sketchy. I don't know if I want to stay and work for him. And then they were like, well, I wouldn't talk shit about your boss if you're going to stay. But they're like, but it's your parents, you know? And I was like, yeah. I was like, nah, screw this. If things don't work out here, I rely on them to help me, especially with this recession. Like, I have nowhere else to go. I can't get a job and afford my own apartment. I had moved out for like a year before and was forced to move back in. And I was like, no, I'm going to go with my parents. And then this altercation happened. And I hauled ass down there and I was like, oh shit, we better go. So he knew my dad kept a little 22 pistol. He had like, it wasn't like a tiny 22, but it was like a 22 pistol with like the wood panel on the sides. And, yeah, black pistol with little wood panels on the side. Wood handle grip. And we hauled ass. He actually called the cops, but they never saw us. But yeah, he was like fear for his life. Or maybe trying to get my dad in trouble. I don't know. So we hauled ass back to Florida. They put the house up for sale. They ended up not having enough income to keep up with. Now, you would have thought for the money he made off the house, so we built the house and sold it for one of the lots he bought. That I wanted a lot like it, and he didn't get one for me before prices skyrocketed. Built a house and sold it, made like 120, 150K off of it. So he bought a new truck, got my mom a new car. My mom got a $15,000 engagement ring, like replaced her engagement ring with a new, I don't like they kind of went a little too crazy. Nice clothes and all kinds of stuff, and my dad got a boat. So I had to help him sell his boat. They sold my mom's car. They couldn't make, it was like $13 or $1,400 mortgage payment a month. They couldn't afford it, so they did a short sale. So they went from this guy. So I think I mentioned this earlier, and I messed up the story. This guy came and stopped 4 months after we moved in, offered my dad $500,000, $500,000 for the house. My dad said, no, I don't. I just moved in. He was like, I'm very tempted to take you up on it, but I just moved in. And he said, I'll wait and see if I get a better offer. I really don't want to sell. So he went from turning that down because he didn't want to move after moving 4 months earlier to like 3 years later, 2.5, 3 years later, couldn't afford to make the mortgage payments, had no work. Florida, there's full-on recession, housing market collapse, and couldn't even sell the house for, I think they ended up selling it for like, they did a short sale. So I can't remember what that means. You work out a deal with the bank where you sell the house for at least what you owe on it, even if it's not like the full price you paid or something, or you sell it for as much as you can, and then you pay off the remaining or something like that. So they ended up selling it for like $150,000, like $30,000 less than what they paid for it. When at one point he could have got $500,000. So it's like, that's like the story of my dad's life. He said one time when he was looking for the land to buy, when he was buying the farmland, he almost bought the land where they built the Walmart off 6 Mile Cypress and decided not to. They probably sold that land for millions of dollars. He didn't buy it. And, oh man, just crazy, crazy stuff. Anyways, so they ended up renting a place in Georgia because his friend lived in Georgia. So we moved to Georgia, suburb outside of Atlanta. We signed up with unemployment office. We all felt paperwork, and they're like, okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna email you, or you're each gonna make your own account, and we're gonna email you a jobs list every day or whatever, and then you go to the website and you put in what you think would be a good match. And we'll email you back what we think matches you and what doesn't. So they'll go and say, "Oh, this one you picked doesn't match you. This one does. This one does. This one doesn't." So usually, the ones I picked, it would usually be like 80% that they would approve, and then they'd show us how to apply. Then we'd either apply online or go to the place, fill out an application, talk to someone, and we'd get there and there'd be like 20, 30 people signing up at the same time. And the only place we ever got work from was this security job doing like you're at a post, just sitting there with a shirt on from the company, just keeping an eye on things, manning a post, like. So they were for trade shows at the Georgia World Congress Center. Huge, huge place, the Georgia World Congress Center. They do expos. They've done all kinds of stuff. They did a Microsoft convention there, huge Microsoft convention. They did a waste management, all garbage trucks and compactor trucks and everything. They did a convenience store convention there. They did all kinds of things. They did a medical company convention there. So we did all that. And we'd go, and they'd take like 2 weeks to set up, and then a week to break down, and then there'd be a week for the convention. So they would like say, okay, we got like a month of work for this show, and then maybe if there might be a simultaneous show at the Centennial Park, I think, where the Olympic Park bombing was or whatever. They'd have something going on there, and we'd go, watch that at night. Make sure no homeless people come in and steal anything. At the Georgia World Congress Center, make sure, other booth people aren't stealing from other booth people, and making sure no unauthorized people come in. And looking professional and all that. And then, so I got us all jobs doing that. Me, my mom, and my dad did that as much as we could. Sometimes we'd get piece work here and there. Sometimes we'd go like 2 months without a gig. Then me and my dad kind of had a little falling out, and then I really did not like Georgia. I did not like Atlanta. So I just wanted to go back to Florida. I was like, if I'm going to be miserable, I might as well be miserable where I know people. This was the worst mistake I think I made in my life. Is I should have stuck it out with my parents and tried to get along better and did something with them. Because when they moved to Tennessee, there was work in Tennessee. I don't think I could have got along working. I liked working with my parents to a degree, but sometimes my dad was such an asshole. He was a drill sergeant in the military, in the army. He could be a jerk. He was mean to me and my sisters. Now, I needed to man up. My sister was my mom. My sister taught me to be tough, but my mom kind of babied me. But my dad didn't do things with me to toughen me up. He was just a jerk. So it was tough. So maybe it would have been better, maybe it would have been worse. But I went back to Florida. My sister wrecked her car. She needed someone to drive her. She ended up going to this pill mill. I moved to Georgia. I didn't touch any drugs or anything for a year. I never was an addict. I only did things recreationally. I partied. I didn't. Wasn't a drug addict. I didn't. Wasn't a dealer. I deal like small stuff when I was in high school. I maybe a little got into a little bit bigger stuff for a little bit, but I wasn't like. I had some things happen. I had guns pulled on me, and I was robbed, and I said some crazy things to the people who did it, and I got to the point where I was like, I don't want anything to do with this anymore, so I quit. I was like, not this isn't the gangster's paradise. I don't want to be a drug dealer. Like, this is stupid. I only did this for side money, and because the I did it a little bit before the recession and a tiny bit after, and then quit when I got robbed. I had 3 guns pointed at my head, and I said, I'm not doing this anymore. So I only just screwed around with, like, I only drank a little bit when I was in Georgia, like on a few, 3 or 4 occasions. I drank. So I was like clean for a year, didn't do anything. And then leading up to that, I only drank and did a little bit of pills and stuff, little coke, stuff like that. But anyway, so I make it back to Florida, and my sister's going to a pill mill, and she's selling her pills, and so she has enough money to make it go back to the doctor. She's basically staying with this guy just for a place to live, and so she can go to her pain management clinic. And anyways, she wrecked her car, and she wanted me there to come down and drive her to her doctor's appointment, and she paid for insurance on my truck and to renew my tag, and shipped it to me because I wasn't driving my truck in Georgia, and it was kind of beat up and messed up. So anyways, I just dealt with that, drove to Florida, and then my parents, after living with her for a few months, this kid she was living with, a few years younger than her, she didn't like him. I didn't like him that much. He wasn't that horrible, but he was just kind of, it's a long story, kind of weird. Parents were gonna move, and they asked if I could help them move, or I volunteered or something. So I said, I'll help you move. I said, let me call the security company, see if I can get a gig, and I'll come up there and I'll help you move. But let's work for like a month or two, or no, it was 2 weeks. It was only like 2 weeks. I said, let's do that 2 week job, and then we'll move you. That way I can make some money while I'm there. So we do that 2 week security job, and then I move them. They end up moving to Eastern Tennessee because they didn't like Georgia. So I moved them to Tennessee. My sister meets this guy. She's like telling me, let's go out, so let's go to the bar. Went to the bar. She meets this piece of shit. She's making out with him and shit. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? You're an idiot. And he's like, oh, is your brother gonna kick my ass? And he's like a straight wanksta, white wannabe gangster. So, and I told him, I was like, it's not even you. I'm mad at her. What is she doing making out with this guy? He's got all these issues. He's living with his ex, and they're raising their daughter together, and she's a lesbian now. Her girlfriend lives there, and they live in separate rooms. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? So then she's like, I'm breaking up with Joel. We're gonna go back to Florida. I'm gonna break up with Joel. So we go there, and she's like, I don't even want to break up with him. Let's just go get our stuff and leave while he's at work. And I'm like, man, that's so messed up. I was like, I don't like him that much either, but that's messed up. She's like, I'm scared. He's got a he's got like a Glock 40 and like a 30 round clip or 9 millimeter, the 30 round extended clip. And we went shooting it, and she's like, he's taking Xanax and this and that. He's acting crazy. I'm scared he might do something stupid if I break up to his face. I was like, okay, let's just do it. So we move, get the stuff out. I find a friend who'll let us stay with him. And then she says, I'm going to go back to Tennessee and live with mom and dad. And I'll come back down on the whatever last day of the month and go to my doctor. And I was like, okay, you're going to go meet up with him or whatever. And she's like, no, well, maybe. And I'm like, whatever, do what you're going to do. So I ended up staying down there. She moves back up there. She comes back down multiple times. Well, they ended up cracking down on all these pain clinics. So it got to the point she couldn't even fill her prescription anymore. And they offered her alternative prescription, but she could only make money off the Roxy's. So she didn't want to take the alternative. Couldn't get it filled anymore. So, long story short with me is I ended up getting work where I could. Went without work for a while. She said she would help me. I'm paying my friend like minimum amount for rent. I filled out like hundreds of apps, couldn't get a call back. Nobody was hiring. Everyone who could milk unemployment would, because they could not get a job anywhere. And if they did, it wasn't paying enough that it was worth stopping unemployment. So that's when I went back to school. I was like, I'm gonna go back to school. Well, my friend, I didn't know this, but my friend's house I went to stay at had bed bugs. I went and hung out there a couple times. I knew they had those little German cockroaches, and I was like, well, I only seen a few there. When you get those things, it's hard to get rid of them. I was like, I only saw a few. It's probably not that. Maybe we could spray the house or something. I didn't know they had bed bugs. So I was living there for like a couple months, and I felt something biting. I think it was either my legs or something, a little bit, or my side. I was like, it was so little. I was like, oh, it's probably nothing. I got mosquito bit or something. My sister came and visited one time, and she got all ate up. She was like, I think you got bed bugs. And I was like, nah, really? And she's going through my bed, and she finds one. And I'm like, oh my God. The whole house is ate up with bed bugs. So they introduced me to another friend. He's got a house that needs work done, and I said, I'll help him work on it. He wants me and this other girl to come live with him. He was hooking up with this girl, and he disappeared, and I got like peer pressured into doing something with this girl. And then he came back around and was like, I don't know why I wouldn't want. He wasn't that worried about it because he knew he left, so he's like, yeah, it's my fault. I didn't lock her down or whatever. But me and him became good friends before they started dating or at the same time. So he's like, why don't y'all both come stay with me? So we had to I had to go through my shit so carefully, make sure I didn't bring bed bugs with me. Lived with him for like so long, and day labor was like a block down the road. So I would walk to day labor, and I'd do day labor as much as I could. I helped fix the house up a little bit. And then like there was only so much that I could do, so I was like, I'll just give you rent, because that was part of my rent, was the work on the house. And then that wasn't really working out that great, and I was just like, I'll give you like I think it was like one, or it was like $270 a month or something. So I was giving him like $270 a month or whatever, I think. like $260 a month, something like that, and for 1 bedroom. And the girl was like a retarded bitch. So I ended up having issues with her, and then had some issues with him over some stuff that happened. My sister came and visited a couple times with her boyfriend, and long story short, he ended up giving me 30 days to leave. He's like, if you need more than that, you can take it, but I'm just letting you know, we want the place to ourselves, blah, blah, this, whatever. I was like, okay, that's cool. I knew things were kind of getting sour. And she was a nut. Like, I couldn't stand. She had 2 kids. She was looking for someone to take care of her and her kids, and I didn't want nothing to do with that. She tried to have me do it, and I was like, no, I'm good. The funny thing is, I ended up finding a girl with 3 kids, but it wasn't nothing to do with her having kids. It was just, I didn't like her. I wasn't going to force that situation. I didn't even like her. And she got 2 kids, so I thought her kids were cool, but yeah. So anyways, I had a girlfriend in high school. We were together from 16. I was 16 and a half till I was 20, and then we split up. And she split up with me like a month after my sister left her husband. That was the whole thing. So anyways, I'm single for like a year or 2 or a couple of years now. So now I don't have a job. I just finished, me and him, and we got a job together because his girlfriend said, my dad's friend talked to this guy and they need someone to remodel a sports bar, Stevie Tomato's sports bar. So we remodeled it, turned it into the dirty gator. He hung this like huge gator. He's like, I don't know where I'm gonna put this. I think I'm gonna put it on the roof upside down. So we freaking found a way to hang it upside down, hung it for him. We went there, we ripped out old kitchen equipment, scoured the place, painted, pulled out old tables and chairs, went through them, fixed them, put them in this back room. Made room for contractors, helped them. We hung TVs, we did all kinds of stuff. So when that was done, I had went and finished the barber stuff, the cosmetology school stuff, so I didn't have to pay back the Pell Grant, which was like 2/3 or more of the tuition. It was like 19,000 or something, and the Pell Grant was like 12,000 or 9,000 or something. It was like half or 2/3 or something. So I went and finished that, and I was in no place to even to be in a barber shop. I had no money, nothing. Now I got 30 days to be out of this place. So my other friend that had the bed bugs, I talked to his neighbor, and I begged him for work. I was like, is there anyone that needs work done? I will clean toilets. I'll do anything. I've done construction. I've done wood framing. Anyone needs work, I'll do it. I need work so bad. So he had me replace the deck boards on his boss's dock. So I did that. I way undercharged. I got paid $400. It took 6 days to do. It was so much work because I had to unscrew all the old dock boards, pull them up, and then I had to cut. Instead of buying a bunch of 8-footers, he bought 16-footers that I had to cut in half, put them down, and then trim them. If they're 8-footers, I could just lay them down. I had to pre-drill each hole and then screw it in. Took forever. So I said, pay me $400 if it takes. I'm gonna work my ass off. I'm trustworthy. I'm not a piece of shit. if I don't get it done in 4 days, it's $100 a day. I'm not asking for much. I just want $100 a day. Pay me $100 a day if it takes more than that. Because if it ends up taking 5 or 6 days, I don't want to be screwed out of what I deserve. He said, how about this? He said, oh, it shouldn't take more than that. Well, how about this? $50 a day if it takes more than 2 days. And he was like, kind of joking, but like thinking maybe I really was gonna try to get over on him. But if it takes more than 4 days, I'll give you $50 a day. That way, you're incentivized to get it done quicker. No taking your time or anything. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm desperate. Okay, I'll take it. I ended up taking 6 days to do it, and I worked like 10 hours each day, and then the last 2 days I worked like 8 hours. Got paid $400. It was horrendous. He ended up getting a job opening with that guy, so I went to work with him. He did automotive equipment, tools and equipment, and he owned 4 car washes, and they bought one for their son while I was working there. I worked with him for 2 years, installing 2 and 4 post car lifts, sometimes truck lifts. We even installed lifts for like school mechanic shops, for police, what they call it, the pool, the something, I can't remember. The sheriff's office, went to their mechanic shop, installed lifts, did work there, cut up concrete, poured new concrete, did all kinds of things. Went to a place that lifted up dump trucks. I never even would have thought that they had 2-post lifts to pick up a dump truck. They have 2-post lifts to pick up a dump truck. Columns are massive. They're like 14 feet tall. Yeah, put like 12 red heads in each one. Drill holes in the concrete. Extra thick concrete. It's crazy. So I did that for 2 years. They would buy they would install tire changers, tire balancers, air compressors, massive air compressors, hose reels, oil tanks, tire balancers. Sometimes they were new, sometimes they were used, and we would refurbish them. Sometimes I'll sell you 4 new lifts, and I'll give you like $500 credit for your 2 old lifts. We'd clean up those old lifts, sometimes paint them or just clean them up, and he'd find someone to buy them for like $1,000 each, and then sell them to someone else or something. $1,000 each installed, because sometimes he'd sell a lift and charge like a couple $100 to install it. He's like, oh, I'll sell you this lift for $1,000 installed. And they'd take it, he'd make like, $500 off of it. And each lift, and he'd pay us like, $300 for labor, and he's making $700. So did that for 2 years. That's a long story. The guy who got me the job, and then he tried to get me fired like every day afterwards. It was so weird. The friend that was his neighbor, how I met him, he was moving, and I went to hang out with him, and he helped me get this job. He let me move in with him. So my other friend, it got down to the 30th day to move, and he was like, are you going to be ready to move on 29th or Thursday or whatever? He's like, I can help you move. I got the Land Rover and the trailer. I'll help you get your stuff out. I was like, no, don't worry about it. I got it. And he kind of got a little nasty. Like, like he was like trying to rush me out after he said, "Don't worry about it, and you can have extra time and this and that." So like the day came, or it was like the day or two. It was like 2 days before. I said, "Hey, remember how you said uh, if I needed extra time to take it, but you said you were giving me my 30-day notice, but if I needed an extra week or two to take it?" I said, "Do you remember when he told me that?" And he was like, "Oh no, you need to be out. You need to be out on the 29th or whatever." And I was like, "Are you serious?" He like told me. He's like, "No, no." Like he wouldn't even let me finish talking. He's like, "No, no, you need to be you need to be ready. You need to be out on that day." I was like, "Okay." Quit talking to him. I'm never being friends with this guy again. He tried being friends with me after this. That was crazy. I was like, "Fuck you. I don't want to be your friend. You fucking, I didn't do anything to you. And you fucking rushed me out of your house to the point I was almost homeless. I almost had to throw all my shit away and fly to my parents' house to live. After you telling me you would give me extra time to figure things out if I needed, and then taking that back when I needed it." So my friend's neighbor who helped me get that job, he's like, "Hey, my boss needs a helper for me. You can come work for me." He's like, "So," and he said, "You can stay with me. I got to talk to my wife, but I think you can stay with me." I helped her family and parents out. So I'm going to help you out. She's going to deal with it. So he had to like argue with her a little bit, and they let me stay with them. But it got down to the last few days, and I was like, he hadn't like found out for sure if I was going to stay with. I don't think he brought up the idea, but wasn't sure about it. And I was like, well, it was like 2 weeks. No, it was like 2 weeks before. He was like, "What are you going to do?" I was like, and it was before he offered the job to me. So he'd offered the job to me like right after that, and then talked about me maybe staying with him. And I was like, "I'm not sure what I'm going to do." I was like, "I'm probably going to fly home to my parents and just throw all my shit away, or leave it in the apartment, let them fucking deal with it. Fuck them. They probably it's a couch and a TV. They probably want it anyways. They'll keep it. Just throw all my other random shit out." So he was like, I'll help you move. You can come stay with me." And he got me the job. So, "Hey, I got a job for you." And he's like, "You can live with me." And then like 2 days later, I went and moved all my shit out. And he's like, "Oh, where are you going?" I'm like, "Going to Timmy's house." He knew the guy. It's my friend's neighbor. He was like, "Oh yeah, he's helping." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I got a job work with him." He's like, "Okay, cool." And then he came over when I was hanging out at the friend's house once and tried to say, "Oh, don't we get along so much better? We're not roommates." And I was like, "Fuck that. Not friends with you now." Like, he's like, I was like, "If you would have done it a little different, maybe, but no, not the way you did shit. No, we're not better friends." I said, "No, we're not better friends now. Why the fuck would we be better friends now?" He's like, "Oh man, don't be like that." I'm like, "Fuck you, dude." Anyways, so that friend whose house we're at was moving. So he's moving to Virginia. His parents are moving. They lived at a separate house. And he's like, it's a long story with that house and everything. Like, I moved in with them originally, with the bed bugs people. And they were like, I said, "I'll help clean a little bit. And I'll pay you like $180 a month." And my sister said she would help me pay for it because she was wheeling and dealing. And she said she would hook up my friend's old lady with some pills. And she was cool with that. So I stayed there for like 6 months or more. Then went and stayed with the other friend. I said, I'll do the dishes. I'll like sweep and mop or whatever, and do a little bit of cleaning. And I did that. I did a little bit of that, but they were so nasty, and they had a roommate there. They basically had him living there for free as long as they could use his truck. And they had dogs there, and the dogs would shit. And I said, I'm not. That's the one thing I said. I said, I'm not cleaning up dog shit. You're cleaning up after your own dogs. I'm not cleaning up dog shit. And then they would all argue with each other over who's going to clean up the dog shit. And then the dog shit would sit there for days. And then she had a daughter. And they had someone that got mad at them at one point and called DCF. And they came there and saw dog shit on the floor and stuff. And the place was, I think at that point I got a little sick of no one like picking up after themselves. So I kind of like stopped cleaning as much. My room was like nice. And the cops were like asking us, because DCF came and the cops came, do like a welfare check. And I was like, I rent this room. It's like, she doesn't come in my room. They're like, it's like, you got the cleanest room here. It's like, yeah, because I'm not a nasty fucking person. So anyways, I partied with them for a few nights a week for like 2 months because I knew he was leaving and I wasn't gonna see him again. He's moving to West Virginia for probably ever. He still lives there. I think he's in prison now. He ended up going down some dark road. I thought he was, he never did anything bad or illegal. Like he just, I mean, yeah, he did some illegal things, but like he wasn't like no outlaw and I just figured he'd end up doing some kind of construction work or something like that. Work at at least work at like as a store clerk or something. And he went and got all screwed up doing some dumb shit. I don't know. Him and the woman broke up and they had a kid together before that. Anyways, I knew he was leaving for good, so me and him were pretty good friends. I wanted to hang out a few nights a week till he moved. So my coworker would come home and see me there hanging out, drinking beers. So every day when I'd get to work, I'd come to work on time, I'd do my job, do everything. I was like not affecting my work at all, and he'd say, "Oh, how many beers did you have last night?" This is this little Mexican dude, and he was a citizen, but he had family there and stuff that weren't. And his wife's family had green cards, and they were on Section 8 and food stamps. That's why I said, and I found out about my dad's workers too, how they were. My dad thought they were all legal, and then over time we found out like one by one, like a few of them at least were like stealing people's identities and shit. And I ended up working for people after that. Years later, that's a whole nother story, but that were all stealing identities and counterfeiting licenses. That's why I'm always like, I fucking hate illegals. I can't stand them because I've seen all the dirty shit they do, and I know their attitude towards us, all the immigrants and stuff. They fucking hate us. So he'd be like, "Oh, how much beer did you drink last night? Oh, 1 12-pack or 2 or whatever." I was like, I drank like 8 beers last night. And I went home. I said I was home by midnight. And I got up at 6 this morning, got to work by 8. What's the fucking problem? And they just look at, the boss and his wife would like look at me like, oh. Like, but they, she'd kind of give me a weird like look, like, and then he'd be like, oh. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you starting shit? He's like, oh, because you're a piece of shit. And he'd play it off like it was a joke, but he would say something fucking stupid. And I'm like, why would you help me get a job and then trash talk me every day? So they ended up moving. He's talking shit about me every day to my boss and stuff. They play it off like it's a joke, but then they treat me like shit. And I'm like, this is fucking old, but Now I helped them move. He was renting a 5,000 square foot warehouse across the street, and he bought a 5,000 square foot or 7,000 square foot building across the street. I helped him move his whole business. He had like all kinds of old lifts and tire changers and big shelves and shit like you see in the back of like a home or like Home Depot shelves. I had to take them apart. I'm like climbing up different levels and taking them apart and shit. Putting them on the forklift, driving forklift. Taught myself how to drive a forklift. He had a scissor lift. He had his own. I'm using scissor lifts and shit. I'm going and working. I went and worked with Timmy to learn and install lifts and equipment and stuff. But for the first month of me working there, I moved one warehouse to the next, and we like knocked down walls and well, he contracted a guy to cut out walls and do some concrete work because it was like a storage unit and had a bunch of door bays and stuff and separate storage units. And they had little offices in each one because some of them were businesses and some of them were just storage units that people rented. And um, so they had little offices in there, and I had to go in there and like demolition the little houses or the little offices and stuff and rip them out. And then we had to tear out some bathrooms. We left in like 2 different bathrooms, tore out all the other bathrooms and sealed them up and used that as open floor space. And then they cut holes so we can walk through, and then they cut big holes. So they made like 3 separate big areas, no, 2 separate big areas, and then 2 separate areas. So they put air compressors, and they had a parts department, and then they had like a couple bays where we worked on lifts and stored lifts, worked on different equipment and stuff. They had a bay for like tire changers and stuff. So, anyways, I busted my ass for a month. I moved that whole place, a 5,000 square foot warehouse full of heavy shit. Driving across back and forth with the forklift, and then setting things up and coming back. And he was really impressed by me. He was like, "Wow, he's like this guy." He called me Buford, like Buford Pusser. He's like, the walking tall guy, Buford, Sheriff Buford Pusser. I'm gonna call you Buford. I'm like, okay, cool. So he's like, "Oh yeah, Buford's been such a great asset. Like he really helped us get things moved over and got things going." And so then after that was finished, I went and started installing equipment and stuff, and I learned how to install lifts pretty much. Probably couldn't remember now how to do it perfectly, but I could probably figure it out. But worked for them for 2 years. So right before my friend left, we were hanging out. I wasn't doing drugs or nothing with them. They were smoking weed and stuff, and I was like, I don't want to smoke weed. I don't want to do anything. I had smoked weed with them sometimes and drank and stuff. But they wanted to. She had her baby. He had a baby with her, and they were planning on moving. And he had done some coke or something while she was pregnant. She couldn't do it, and then they got some, and she wanted to do some, and I put in some money, and I've not done coke like in years at this point. I think I did a little bit with him when he bought some. I ain't spent money on coke in years or on drugs at all. I haven't spent money on drugs in years. And and she was like, and so I had him buy me however much I got, like $100 worth. And I went and he helped me get an apartment. So I lived with him for a few months, and he helped me get an apartment. And my bills were paid and everything, and I had bought a car. So I poured out a line for her. And he came over, let himself in, walked over, and the doorknob was taken off for some reason. I can't remember why. They got locked out of the room or something. And I let her get a line. And, because she wasn't pregnant more and she wanted one. She's like, oh, I didn't get to do any while I was pregnant, so I want to do some now. I let her do a line, so me and her did a line. And he was peeking through the door hole while we were doing it. He knew about me. I told him about my past. I said my sister was selling pills. I said I've done pills. I was arrested for possession of pills. I said I've been clean for a long time. All I've done was drank a little bit, and I might have popped like an occasional like Xanax if someone had it or something, but that was it. And but I said, my sister was coming here. When my sister came, she would give me pills. So when she quit being able to go to the doctor, I didn't have any for a long time. But when she came, she'd give me methadone and like quarter Xanax bars and stuff like that. And she would sell her Roxys, but sometimes she'd give me like a few of the Roxy 30s. And I told him, I was like, yeah, I've done drugs. I don't do them anymore. It's been a long time. But I said I very, very seldomly do drugs. So he started calling me a crackhead. I was like, what the fuck are you calling me a crackhead for? He's like, oh, you doing crack? How you doing, crackhead? How much crack, or, oh, you been drinking tonight? Come on, crackhead. Let's go finish this lift or whatever. I was like, I'm fucking so tired of him calling me a crackhead. And after we did that line, we had heard him open and close the door and walk out. So we knew he was in the house. But he said, oh, I just came in the kitchen and didn't see you, so I walked outside. So I had put two and two together. I know for sure he came over and looked through the door handle hole, watched us hit those lines. So I didn't do any drugs after that for a long time. And he kept treating me like shit. And then my boss laid me off for 2 months. My boss laid me off for a month. And very quickly from not working, and I didn't have anything saved up really. I mean, I was kind of barely just making enough to get by. And I wasn't making much to really save any money. And at one point, my car broke down. It had already broken down, and then I had paid a guy. He helped me find a guy to replace the transmission. And he did a crap job. He wanted more money. He said, no, we already gave you $1,100. You told us $1,100. You need to finish the job. He was in too far over his head with the job, apparently. So he finished it and did it. And then it messed up again. And then he blamed me for driving it after it messed up. And he said, well, I'll fix it, but you got paid for parts. I gave him like $400 something for parts. And he gave me the car back, and it was still doing the same thing. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I just didn't even know what to do. I've never been in a situation like this. So I'm like 22 at the time. So anyways, he calls me back for work after a month. So I'm like late on my rent. I pay my rent. There was like a late fee. I didn't get around to paying that. And then like they charged me another fee on top of that. And I was like, I paid that, but I couldn't pay the other late fee. So like there's like compounding late fees. And I'm just paying my rent every month. And then my friend had moved, and I went back to work. And then my friend who helped me get the so-called friend helped me get the job is like telling me, "Oh, he laid you off for a month to teach you a lesson," and I'm like, "What lesson?" I said, "He didn't even tell me that he was mad at me or anything. He just said that work was slow." I was like, "What are you talking about?" "Oh, you know what I'm talking." I'm like, "Oh, see, I think he was fucking with my head as much as he could. He was a piece of shit, and he liked to screw with people. The last helper he had committed suicide, blew his brains out because his girlfriend left him for another woman. I don't know if they had a kid together or not, but he was with a woman. He really liked her. He did not take the breakup kindly. She started talking to another girl. He was a handsome guy, too. He was like a handsome dude, like blonde hair and blue eyes and everything. And then instead of just like trying to find a new girlfriend and dealing with it, he fucking blew his brains out. He shot himself in the head. And before he did, Timmy told me, he admitted to me, he said, I told him when his girlfriend left him because he was all sad and depressed, I told him he should just kill himself. I said, just shoot yourself then. He said, I didn't know he was going to do it. I was like, that's fucked up. And the guy ended up being his boss's daughter's friend. And that's how he got the job. I was like, hey, have you ever told anyone that? He was like, no. I was like, I bet they wouldn't like to hear that. I should have told him. I never did. But so he told the guy to fucking blow his brains out, and then the fucking guy blew his brains out. So he's just a piece of shit. I don't know how to explain it. He was a weirdo. He was a creep towards women. Like he would go. He was a little older than us, and he's always like fucking, what do you call it? Like groping the girls that were over there and stuff, and laughing about it. like everyone, like, and then he'd bring over some Mexican friends that were worse sometimes, and I just don't fucking know. I wish I never would have left Tennessee. So, anyways, or yeah, should have never left Tennessee. Should have just left all my shit in Florida too, and just stayed in Tennessee. Anyways, so I started getting lonely because I was trying to hang out with him. I was like, I ain't got no one to hang out with. Let's hang out. Let's do something. He didn't want to make time to hang out with me. Didn't want to invite me anywhere anymore like he used to. So I started looking for friends to hang out with. So I ran into an old friend's brother who kind of dicked me over in the past. But I kind of was like, let sleeping dogs lie. I started hanging out with him. He brought me to this bar that he would hang out at and met a couple other people. I invited everyone back to my place. A couple of these guys were like couch surfing at friends' houses. I was lonely. So I said, y'all could stay with me. I kind of missed part of the story. My other friend who lived at the other place with the bed bugs, he had a friend that I befriended, a different friend, who had a car and was hanging out there. I said, hey, if you want a place to stay, you can come stay with me, and then drive me to work and stuff, and just you can live with me for free and just give me a ride while my car was broke down. This guy was fixing it. So he was hanging out with me. I'll just break down that story very short. He got arrested. He got arrested. So his mom came, picked up his dog in his car. He was dicking around doing some things he shouldn't have been doing. He started being a middleman for someone. And this kid who got in trouble was trying to set up someone for the cops. So he went and asked him if he could get him some coke. and he went and through and middleman for someone else and got him coke a few different times. I never did coke with these people. I never did that. I didn't want it. I did a little bit, however long earlier, and I didn't do it after my friend moved. So he's doing these deals, and I went with him a couple times, and then I went the 2 times in the middle, and he went the first time by himself. And the last time, me and him were kind of getting on each other's nerves because we're like living with each other for like 3 or 4 months. At this point, he's like, "No, I'm gonna go on my own." And then they popped him on that. They busted him on that one. Turned out the kid had been setting him up each time for sales because he got in trouble and wanted to go to the Marines. They said they'd clear his record if he helped him catch someone else. My friend refused to roll over on anyone, so he ended up staying in jail, didn't get out. He got distribution charges. It was like few grams of coke, whatever. They made a big deal about it. He was in jail for like a month, few weeks, a month. He got out, went and lived with his mom, and he did drug court and was like one of the 8% who actually passed. Like 92% of people who do drug court fail and go back to jail. He did drug court and succeeded, did everything, passed flying colors, straightened his life out, became like an underwater welder, did great with his life, had a daughter, owns his own property, like did really good. I ended up meeting up with this other friend, so he had just went to jail. I got my car back like by luck. The guy called and was like, "Hey, your car's ready." Even though he didn't fix it all the way, it was still like it would still go, but it shifted like crazy, and it was like, wah. I was like, "Whatever, I'm gonna just drive it till it won't drive anymore." So I drove it. And sometimes if you can just get it up in the like fourth or fifth gear, it'd be fine. But I would just try as much as I could to just drive it as little as possible. Try as hard as I could not to shift down to lower gears, even if it was an automatic. But anyways, so I invited those guys to hang out, started hanging out with them. And then my sister came to visit. These guys were hanging out with me pretty much like had moved in. My sister was coming to visit. I said, "Don't bring anyone with you." And then she brought someone with them without telling me. And then, man, fuck this, dude.